So let's take a look at the default Android-based camera for the XperiaX. So just hold and press on the camera button, and here we have the camera native UI. It's in intelligent auto mode actually. I can go to manual if I'd like to, and I can focus. As you can see here, it acquires focus rather quickly. So let me go to the intelligent auto, which will track subjects, as you can see here. And this works pretty much accurate. And in video mode, you also have tracking features. As you can see here. So let's go to manual and see how long it takes. One thing that I noticed, there's no confirm beep sound or other telling me that the stuff is now focused. So I have to rely on my eyes to see if it's focused or not. And you can see the exposure changes depending on what I'm focusing on. But I think, as you can see here, it will not always focus on the thing. Sometimes it will hunt, and as you can see, the blue confirm that it focused. As you can see here, there was a little hunting in here when I shoot this one, and sometimes you can see a blue confirming there was a hunt again, but in general it focused very, very quickly. And yeah, let's do a demonstration video with focusing stuff. So let's keep track of this car. Should be in focus. Let's go over here. Should be in focus. Should be in focus. Let's see if we can get the background sharp. I think it is sharp now. Now the foreground works pretty good. So let's take a look at the SailfishOS camera application on the XperiaX device. As you can see here, I have it already opened. You can see the shutter button, you can see the switch to the video mode. You have a switch to the fore camera, to the front camera, as you can see here. You can see me with my fancy setup. And of course I can switch back. And by default it is in auto focus modus. This means that it will autofocus on things. You can see that this pig is now in focus. So if I just take a shot, it will be in focus, but this car isn't in focus. If I click on the car here, you can see that it will focus on the car. It will focus on the car. And the background should be not in focus, but you can see the pig is slightly in focus. And if I let it go for too long or don't take a shot, it will go into the auto modus again. And in this mode, it will just simply focuses on whatever it thinks is the best. So as you can see here, the exposure is locked to the focus point. And I find it hard to make this salamander or take a shot from the salamander here in focus. As you can see, the exposure is locked, but if I zoom in, you can see that it isn't in focus. So what's in focus? This isn't in focus. This isn't as well in focus. I think the background is in focus somehow, so I have problems focusing with this application. When it comes to the shutter button, you can half press it, but it just doesn't do anything. But you can press it to take a shot, of course. This works. And this works as well, as you can see here. And if I now zoom in, you can see the car seems to be in focus. I go to the pig, it is slightly out of focus. So this worked here right now, but it's not working every time. So I think this is something Yola has to improve with its software so that the focusing thingy works better. I think I now got the salamander in focus. Nope, still not in focus. So I have problems focusing stuff here on my XperiaX with the SailfishOS application. What features do I have? I can control the exposure. As you can see here, I can make it darker or lighter, brighter. And of course I have the option to change some settings, just like for example the self timer. I can enable the flash, and I can choose between the various different ISO modes, and as well I can use a grid for better positioning my my subjects, or I can even use the ambient grid, which is meant for creating nice ambience for your background. But this time you have to just go into portrait mode for this, and I think this looks pretty nice. And of course you have some auto white balance options, just like for example I can leave it in auto white balance. I can go to cloudy, I can go to sunny, I can go to neon light or normal bulb light, or again into automatic mode. And of course with a swipe down I can go to video mode, which allows me to take videos. But as you can see here, there's no tracking of objects. Even if I tap on an object, nothing happens in video mode. Oops, even switches back to. So let me do this again. Tap, nothing happens in video mode, as you can see here. It just even also doesn't focus. So there's only autofocus enabled in video mode, as you can see here. It will focus on various different in center placed objects, but it will not let me switch the focus in video mode, and it will even allow me to set my focus point in video mode. So this is a little bit a downer, I guess, but overall, yeah, you have the basic options to use in the camera, and usually they work fine. Let's check if the pig is in focus. No, it's not. So as you can see here, the focusing modes are a problem. So, but when I leave it in auto mode and make sure that the pig is almost in the center, it will be in focus, as you can see here. Oops. No, it isn't in focus. What's in focus now? The car is in focus. So it's a lottery sometimes to get things in focus, and this is something that Yola has to fix, because otherwise this camera software is useless. So now the pig is in focus, and yeah, pretty nice photo, as you can see here. I will show you some other pics, and we'll compare them with the Android software, the stock Android software on the XperiaX device, so you can get a little bit about the quality differences between the Android version of the XperiaX and the SailfishOS version of the XperiaX when comparing them with each other, and the camera software not only, but also the pictures they take. So now let's take a look at the various different images that I created. First of all, let's go into this screenshot. As you can see here, this is the screenshot of the SailfishOS XperiaX version. And you can see that various different resolutions for the camera. So the back camera has a 16:9 ratio by default, which allows you to take 16 megapixels. And the front camera has a 4:3 ratio by default, which allows you to create 13 megapixel images. When you switch to a 4:3 ratio, you will have 13 megapixels available. If you switch on the front camera to 16:9, you have 8 megapixels that you can take photos with. So that's the main difference. So if I open up now this image here, put it to the right and put this image to the left, you'll see that there is a difference in the resolution. So 8 megapixels here and 16 megapixels here. So this is, I think, the one with the pick in focus. Let me search the one with the pick in focus. As you can see here, these look pretty similar. Maybe this one is a little bit brighter, but this is because the outside and the light coming in was a little bit brighter, basically. And the perspective is a little bit slightly different. But when we go into 100%, you can see that, yeah, took a good picture, I think, but the details are somehow missing. We go into 100% here, you can see much more details. I can even go, because it's an 8 megapixel image, I can go slightly in there to make it a little bit bigger, and still you can see that there are more details in this shot with the Android version of the XperiaX device. You can see this on the dust particles at the bottom, on the scarf as well. As you can see here, this is basically one color, and here you can make some differences out of it. And yeah, these are the basic differences, as you can see here. But if you go into the adjusted view here, the normal view, you can't simply tell a difference. So the only difference that you can tell with the algorithms that the Android version uses, the proprietary algorithms that Sony uses and that can't be used by Sailfish OS, you can see that on a normal view, basically you will get a pretty damn good photo. If you go to 100%, you can see clearly the differences. And then another problem, again, focusing on the salamander. I try to focus on the salamander here again as well. As you can see here, it's brighter, so the salamander gets really nice exposure. As you can see here, the salamander might be slightly out of focus, and the rock underneath it is in focus. But here, as you can see here, I also try to make a picture of the salamander. It's clearly out of focus, and what is in focus is the background. Or is it? Or was it the car that I was focusing on? Let me go to the next image. It's not. This one. This one is the one where I focused on the salamander clearly. But you can see it's not in focus. What is in focus is the background. As you can see here, the chair, perfectly in focus. But you can see also at 100% that there are chromatic aberrations. There's little details, and it's basically looking very bad. So clearly this camera has a lot of potential, and you can do a lot in software to make it look better, as Sony proves it with its Android software. But in general, I think it's a normal mid-range camera. And of course, the Android version has slightly the advantage in detail. And let's go to the overview of the darker images. Because here I can see a slight advantage in the Sailfish OS way. Perhaps not this image compared to this image. As you can see here, there's clearly a more greenish, yellowish tint on the Sailfish OS version of the image, and on the Xperia Android version you can see it is more cooled down, so there's a different color, especially in the green here on this little guy. And when it comes to details, I think the salamander was in focus here. Oof, you can see I have to zoom out a little bit. As you can see here, it is in focus. Here it is also in focus, but you can see here it is the greenish tint, and here it has the usual look that I would expect from a camera. But overall, I think in details you can see that there is no much difference in here, which is pretty nice, even though this is 8 megapixels and this is 16 megapixels. And when you look at this, okay, you can color correct this one, then it will, I think, look just like this one here. So this was focusing, I think, on the salamander again, therefore this is overexposed. Let me take a look. This is without any flash turned on. This is with flash turned on. What was I focusing on? I think I was focusing on this pig again. As you can see here, wishy-washy. Details basically gone. Let me find a picture. This is a video. Let me find a picture where I focused on the pig. As you can see here, clearly the winner, the Android device with lots and lots of details here, and no wishy-washy screen design basically. So yeah, overall in dark lighting conditions, I think even with the flash turned on, you can see problems with the white balance on the Sailfish OS side. On the Android side, it does not suffer from this. And of course, you can see again the details problem that even an 8 megapixel image provides more detail than a 16 megapixel image. But in the overall look and feel, I think this is pretty good. So let's take a look. What can we compare next? I did some shots, some usual shots on the street with the Xperia on Sailfish OS. As you can see here, a nice pig. Again, I cannot complain. This does look a little bit cool, but it's October here, so it's normal for this time of the year to look a little bit dull. And as you can see here, I can make out details on this train here, on this sign here, of course, as well. I can see people clearly. Not able to read the electronic sign here, but I think this looks pretty good and pretty okay. I left it in auto mode. I did not focus on anything. You can see there might be a slight breaking point here for the lens itself, where the building looks a little bit distorted, but this is normal for such a small camera, and I saw it already on other devices as well, even high-class devices with the best sensors ever developed for a camera phone. So this is the usual stuff. And here for the details, again, a little nice car with the POW on it, as you can see, and it looks also pretty nice and pretty okayish. And I think, oops, this is, I think, a graphical error in my on my screen only. So as you can see here, you can make out pretty much any details. You can even see the press here, as you can see here. And yeah, I think it's a nice photo. Let's take a look at the background. Do we have some nice background blur? Not so much, I guess. There's a little bit of background-ish blur. Here you can see the lens effect again, where this looks to be a little bit drunken, this background, but this is a usually perfectly normal image that you will take with every camera phone. So overall, I guess this camera on the Sony XperiaX device, of course, performs a lot better with the Android that Sony provides and the proprietary digital restricted algorithms they use for optimizing the photos. And on the Sailfish OS device, we have 16 megapixels. They took goodish photos, but of course they lose the details because they are not able to use those algorithms. What I'm not very fond of is the quality of the focusing, because it is misfocusing a lot, and which is not very nice if you want to focus on a specific thing in your photograph. And another thing that you will notice is in video mode. Let me play back the video mode here for the Android device. As you can see here, that it's clearly focusing, and you get a nice smooth transition between the focusing points, and it has electronic image stabilization as well turned on, which creates a nice video. One thing that you can see here, that this video is taken in full HD and 30 frames per second. So now let's go, what might be also interesting to see the audio. As you can see here, 48 kilohertz. Let's go to the SailfishOS site, and here you can see a big disadvantage. First of all, there is no stabilization turned on, and as you can see here, what's this? There's no autofocusing turned on, so it just does not focus. And as you can see here, it looks a little bit weird, this video, because, and I'm not sure if this is correct, but it tries to record in 4K, as it seems to me, and it's using 25 frames per second and 44,100 hertz, so 44,100 hertz, so 44.1 kilohertz, 44.1 kilohertz, and it's using here full HD. Not full HD, full HD, but it looks like a 4K UHD kind of resolution, which is not so working well, I guess. And I did not find any setting to change this to full HD, which is a little bit disappointing here on this kind of thing. And the same happens to the front-facing camera. First of all, here a test with the front-facing camera. You can see here the exposure is slightly a little bit off. I guess it's too bright in this Android version of the test. But as you can see here, the auto white balance somehow makes me look a little bit too bright, but it looks okayish. And here I'm too dark, of course, because it's taking the brightness from the background. Let's take a look at the SailfishOS version of the front camera test. Here you can see the exposure is a lot better, but you can see the fragmenting because my software is not coming up with the same resolution. As you can see here, it's using a full resolution again. So it's using almost UHD full, not full HD, UHD or 4K resolution instead of the full HD resolution that the Android version uses. And this might explain some of the problems. The brightness is, I think, a little bit better. And of course, it's also focusing the brightness on the background if you have a very bright background, so you get a dark face. The audio quality on this is almost unusable. Listening to this, it might be something for Halloween where you want your voice to be very slow and darkish. Then you can use this. This is how it sounds usually when recording, and I think it's skipping also frames, audio frames basically. And this might be the issue because the resolution is simply wrong. But keep in mind, this camera on the Sony XperiaX device, when it comes to official SailfishOS supported devices, it's still the best that SailfishOS has to offer. It's still the best camera. It's a mid-range camera. It cannot do wonders, but I think there are some problems that need to take needs to be taken care of. The video mode is one thing, so it should not record in UHD because I think or there should be an option to record it at least in full HD with 30 frames per second. Having some sort of stabilization, electronic stabilization might be also a very nice thing. And of course, the audio needs to be fixing for the video. I think if you have the option, because I think the chip is only really capable of recording in full HD perfectly fine, at least on Android. I didn't see any option to record in 4K on this device, so it might be better if Yola fixes the camera app and allows only Full HD recording on both cameras, then I think the audio problem will also go away. And then we have a pretty nice camera phone with the Sailfish OS. So for stills, it's good to use. I think there might be some improvements for the detail exposure thingy, so that we might get more details on the Sailfish OS device. When it comes to focusing, I think it needs a lot of work still, so that it does not misfocus so often. So this is my basic camera test and comparison between the Sony XperiaX device running Android, the stock Android version of Sony Android version, basically with the DRM keys and so on, and the Sailfish OS version without the DRM keys and a slightly higher resolution for the camera by default. But that does not lead into more details in the pictures itself. So this is everything for this little test of the camera and comparison, and I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.